rescan. Ballot number 25 has an issue. So they would then take all the ballots that had been tab 5, the problem ballot. They would put number 25 on top. They would discard the entire batch, and then they would rescan it. Instead of discarding it, they would rescan them, counting those 24 again. Okay? Now, let's say it was out of 50, number 48 that jammed. That's 47 being counted again. I'm just using you know what I'm saying? So, does that clarify that? Okay.
It does. And basically you put batches of 50 in until you're done with that precinct, right?
That's what they would do, yes. But a lot of these workers would, they would get a batch of 50, and then they wouldn't get another batch for like 10 minutes. So then the ballot box was behind them, the steel ballot box. So they would have this batch of 50 in front of them for 10 minutes with no oversight. So they would run them through again with no oversight. They just had no idea what was going on. And if they did know what was going on, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? So I'm saying they have no idea what's going on. Who knows? They did. You know, I have no idea.
That was
helpful.
helpful.
What my friend said.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative C.A. Johnson. Representative Camilleri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your testimony. Going back to the ruling from Judge Kenny, Timothy Kenny, he writes that your description of the events at the TCF Center does not square with any other affidavits. Yeah. He says that there are, excuse me, I'm speaking.
Please,
thank you.
Let's let the representative finish, and then you can
He writes that there are no other reports of lost data or tabulating machines that jammed repeatedly every hour during the count. He also writes that neither Republican nor Democratic challengers nor city officials substantiate your version of these events. The allegations simply are not credible, is what Judge Kenny writes. So my question for you is, you know, you're making claims here today that there's systematic fraud in what's going on in our elections. Are the courts also tied up in that fraud?
Let me tell you what I did by accident, okay? I gave Channel 7 an interview that they tied in to that and made me the witness that's uncredible. Guess what? There's going to be a couple behind me that are going to say the same thing I just said. And
the witness before you was also proven not credible as well by the same
judge. Oh, no, she wasn't, because she wasn't even there.
Representative Camilleri, let's let her finish, please.
The very first time.
So I just want to understand, you know, I don't know what exactly all the things that are being talked about there are, but can you tell us what you said today is the truth? Is that correct?
Sir, I wrote a written affidavit. Yes, it is 100% true. Okay,
and did other people observe this?
Absolutely. And behind me, you're going to hear a couple.
Okay, and we'll hear from them.
And let me just state this. Mm-hmm. I was an IT worker on the stage. I was working with Dominion. I had no poll workers were not allowed on the stage. The data loss, nobody would have heard about that besides me, Samuel, and Nick. Mm-hmm. Okay? Just like nobody knows that Samuel went to the Chicago warehouse besides me because I worked for Dominion. They didn't. They're not going to hear that part. You know what I mean? The poll workers are not going to know that Samuel, they're not even going to know who he is. You know, they're not going to know that he went to the warehouse.
So can you, I think what Representative Camilleri is asking is perhaps why is it that more people, and I know we have a couple here today, but why is it that we're not having more people come forward? I mean, it seems like if there was all this widespread fraud that, you know, we'd have dozens and dozens of people.
I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. My life has been destroyed. My life has been completely destroyed because of this. I've lost family. I've lost friends. I've been threatened. My kids have been threatened. I've had to move. I've had to change my phone number. I've had to get rid of social media. Nobody wants to come forward. They're getting threatened. Their lives are getting ruined. I can't even get an actual job anymore. I can't. Because Democrats like to ruin your lives. That's why.
All right. Let's
Just like they do to Trump.
let's move on to Representative Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So obviously these allegations are very troubling. This is my question here. If these ballots were run through multiple times, as you've alleged, I think you said possibly up to 30,000 times, definitely thousands of times being counted. When we examine the poll book and see who voted, and we count those numbers,
Yes.
would they then not line up with the total number of votes coming out of Detroit?
Just later. The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off by
That poll-
30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000.
And
That poll book. Why don't you look at the registered voters on there? How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero.
So, my question then is, if the
Guess how many? Wait. What about the turnout rate? 120%.
Let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, please.
so the poll book number, there's two things that could happen here. Either the poll book number, if ballots were counted multiple times, there's two options. Option number one is that the poll book numbers are not going to match.
They don't.
The actual. Not by thousands and thousands of votes. That's not what we see right now.
Take a
that's
look
option number
again.
one.
Take a look again.
Option number two is that they essentially were filling in names of people who didn't vote.
Dead people too?
So is that?
Let's
I guess,
let
is that your
Representative
suggestion?
Johnson ask his question, and then when
I
he's
thought that
done.
was his answer. Okay.
Well, I guess that's my question here is why we're not seeing the poll book off by 30,000 votes. That's not the case.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I'm just saying the numbers are not off by 30,000 votes. So
I know what
are you
I
saying
saw.
that they're filling in?
I know what I saw, and I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison.
Okay.
Did you?
Okay,
I'm just trying to ask you a legitimate question here.
Yeah, let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, and then don't interrupt him, and then if you want to respond to it, that's fine. And did you have more, Representative?
Yeah, I guess I just want to keep following back up with the poll book. So are we saying that the poll book is either wildly off or that they are filling in names?
It's wildly off, and dead people voted, and illegals voted.
Okay.
So that's my answer.
I think we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Representative LeGrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, ma'am, can I ask you a simple question?
Sure.
When did you convey the narrative? When did you communicate substantially the narrative that you've given us today? At what do you recall the date that you gave that to the Trump legal team, to Mr. Giuliani and the woman sitting next to him?
To Mr. Giuliani,
To the team.
to them, I'm working with a different attorney.
Well, they're here with you now, and they heard your story, and it's not the first time they heard it. When did you tell them?
I have
When did you
not
give them
spoken
essentially
directly
the narrative?
to Mr. Giuliani.
Pardon? I'm not asking you to finesse here. I'm asking you, when did you tell them the narrative that you're telling us now?
When did I write my first affidavit? November 8th.
Thank you. That's a great place to start. Thanks.
Right.
All right.
But does that answer your question?
I
Because
think it does.
it was
If
sent to
it's-
Lauren
if it's-
McLaughlin.
If the
And I don't know.
I think we're good here.
Got it.
We'll move on. So thank you, Representative LeGrand.
Just clarify for the record, I met her for the first time today and talked to her for the first time yesterday.
But if you're saying the affidavit is essentially consistent with her testimony today, and that was submitted on November 8th, that's great. That's what I wanted to know.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think everybody else did.
His statement was, I think his statement was, if the affidavit matches the testimony today, you're good. Is that what you said?
Of course it matches it.
Okay. All right. With that, I think we'll move on to our next person, if that's all right. Thank you for your testimony today.